Welcome back to the Dean Obeidallah Show. We're live here Friday, October 18th. Third hour on Friday can only mean one thing on this show. It means a lot of things on other shows, but on this show, it means what just happened. As we look back at the insanity of the week, we have three returning champions. Andrea Jones-Rooy, who I think is the champion, who's been on this show more than ever, and we should rename it the Dean and Andrea Jones-Rooy Show. Comedian, professor, podcast host. She's using social and data science to save the world.
That's right.
And
The
circus
world, it's
performer.
not going great, as you can see from the world, but that is the goal. And Dean, I was going to have my lawyers reach out about changing the name of your show, so I'm really glad you brought that up. We'll talk
Very
about
good.
it offline. Yeah.
Also back, Tom McCaffrey, who has rented a professional VO studio to do this show, apparently. He looks very professional. Comedian, his podcast is Last Exit to Brooklyn. He's been on Comedy Central, True TV, VH1, and other places. He's got a book out. Tom, good to see you.
Good to be here. Any chance my name's going on the show or no?
No, I think it's your third time. You got to work a lot of time.
Okay, one more time.
You need to have way less going on, so you're perpetually available.
No, but some people are available. And
I got so much less going on, it's not even funny.
But you look professional. I mean, where you are, because people see this. We post this on YouTube so people can see it. Also, just happy he's here. Christopher Titus, known as Titus, award-winning comedian. He's appeared in countless TV shows. He's done 10 specials. Carrying Monsters is coming soon, right? Currently performing his 11th one-man show to sold-out theaters across the country. Good to see. I thought you missed it. Last week, Titus was beyond. Didn't show up. I assume you were recording your 11th album. That's probably why.
I was writing to know. I took some melatonin the night before and I just got crazy. I also have a book coming out, but you can only get it by fax.
Oh, really? That's very good. And you need to have do you need a pager as well? You need to be paged and then they fax you to you.
Look, you're going to beat me up all the time.
No, I'm not.
This week, and I deserve it. And I apologize. I'll never let you down again, Dean.
Thank you, brother. And look, behind Titus, Sic Semper Tyrannis. Do you guys know who yelled that out? Do you know what that expression? That means it's Latin expression. Titus has to know.
John Wilkes Booth?
Yes.
Oh, very good.
Wait,
Tom
really?
McCaffrey,
Are we? Oh.
I don't know if that's good or bad that I know that.
Yeah.
Death to tyrants. How do you say Sic Semper Elon Musk? No, that's wrong. We're going to work on that.
It's just the same, actually. You just leave it the same. Tyrant.
Yeah.
Oh, you're right. All right. So let's talk about this. Is a big week. We are in the crunch time of this campaign, which is why I'm not sleeping well. I'm antsy and I don't know what's going on. So, all right, let's start something kind of serious here. Donald Trump views us as the enemy from within. All four of us here are everyone watching, unless you're MAGA, and that we are bad people. We have some sick, radical people, and worse, he is going to be prepared because you're easily handled, all of us, by the National Guard, or if really necessary, by the military, because we can't let that happen. Whatever the let and the happen is, he does not let it happen. And then on Wednesday, when asked on Fox News about those comments, he first joked, because there's a panel of all women in the audience, and then added, but then we are the enemy, we are sick, evil, and dangerous. Marxist, communist, fascist, named Nancy Pelosi. So that's where we are. We're a threat to democracy. He's going to use the army to put us down. And the media's like, that Trump. Those, Andrea, like, you're a social scientist saving the world. What's going on here?
Well, I will say that on a personal note, as you were describing this, I was like, Jesus, that is what I talk with my therapist about a lot. It's like, I think, what if I'm deeply bad and bad for this country? And it's like, well, Trump agrees. So Trump and my messed up childhood both are on the same page about this. Dean, it's horrible. You can't have a president or would-be president or former president or presidential candidate say that Americans, his own citizens, his fellow citizens are a danger. And yeah, the fact that the media isn't losing their minds over this is just further testament to how we're all frogs in the boiling pot. And we've just kind of forgotten that this is an absolutely outrageous thing to say when you're running for office.
I thought
that said, if the National Guard comes, I will fight them. I'm ready.
You're not. I don't think it'll come to that. You're in New York. The National Guard is not going to be activated here.
Yeah.
Governor Hochul's not going to call. I thought you were going to say, look, when I looked inside, I realized I am sick, evil, and
that's
from
true
within.
too. Yeah.
So it reminded me once I went to my dentist and he goes, the drilling goes, it's going to hurt a little. I'm like, I'm not the best person. And he started laughing. And he goes, I've never heard that. I'm like, yeah, maybe I deserve a little bit of pain. Not a lot of pain, just a teeny. Yeah. And then he did a little bit like, would you stop that? I'm like, would you give me a shot? Because he said to me, it's not going to hurt that much. Maybe we can do it and it won't hurt that much.
And then
sort of joking.
He asked you, is it safe?
No, that was a whole marathon man thing. Nice
Yeah.
though. Very
Thank
good.
you.
Well played. And no, I'm like, give me the shot because you're killing me. So, Tom, what about you, my friend? Where do you on the enemy from within? Are you an enemy? Are you an adversary from within? Are you a friend of me from within? Like, where do you view yourself compared to Trump?
I feel like I'm all of the above.
Ah,
I feel like I am an enemy within. I think he really nailed it. Um, the projection on this is like, I mean, which is, we've all gotten used to. It's just basically, I mean, it's kind of absurd at this point. Everything he says is just basically what he is. Um, the just calling everyone sick and evil. And I also feel like, it's kind of giving me a lot of credit that I'm an enemy from within that has any kind of power because I feel very
Mhm.
powerless in my life. Like I don't affect anything. But
mhm.
the fact that I have enough strength to take down our government is kind of a big realization to me.
Congratulations.
I know, thank you. I really
Yeah.
feel like I got somewhere. I rented this booth, and
That's
then
very
here
nice.
I
Very
know.
nice.
And first of all, he kind of just throws out words, and I don't, he says Marxist and then communist, fascist. I don't know if those all. Some of those are kind of like go against each other, right? I mean, I'm not the smartest person, but
Right.
I just feel like he just has these buzzwords, and obviously he's just throwing them out there. He just kind of at his greatest hits tour. It's like open with fake news, um, then do communism, Marxism. The Marxism is kind of new though for him, right? I guess because Harris's dad was a Marxist professor, so that means she's a Marxist. If your
He
dad teaches
he
that,
he said it before, but I think I know what you're saying. I mean, so let Titus, what about your next album called Enemy from Within? I mean, what do
That's really good.
you
That's really
It's
good.
really he's really going all out at this point. The enemy within is such a transparent thing. He should have just said it in the original German because I mean the Nazis need to file for residuals. And here's the thing: when he's like the thing about communist Marxist, everything he says, like we should be able to stop him and go define what you just said. If you could define it in front of us all, then we'll believe you. And the radical left lunatic thing bothers me too because it's my favorite pop punk band name, honestly.
really?
But it's also such a tell the radical left. So we have a living wage, a record stock market. We want healthcare for all, affordable housing, and I guess we're missing out on the salad days of people having to line up for vaccines and stacking grandmas and grandpas' bodies in refrigerator trucks. Remember the old days when it was good,
Those
Sure.
were
when it wasn't
good
so
days.
radical. So I think he's lost his mind, and you can pretty much whatever he says he's doing. Like I know he's eating pets. I know he's he's snacking on a chihuahua because he said we did it. I think it's the saddest moment in American history to watch a guy that could possibly be the leader of this country to go to such a low base level. And the saddest part is not him because he's just the messenger, is that the people are buying the message. I think that's where my despair lives.
That's very interesting. So let's turn to Titus's despair, which is the biggest question. I just literally interviewed
That's
Mary
my 12
Trump.
special, by the way.
Right. I interviewed Mary Trump right before this. Mary's my friend. I know her for a few years now, and she's Donald's niece, but she's made a name for herself as being a leader to the point where she's getting sued by Donald again. And the big thing that we have a difficult time intellectually is like, how are we here? How are
Yeah.
we that they're neck and neck? How is every poll and every battleground state now? Now it's good that it's better that every single one is neck and neck. Then Harris is down by 4. I'm like, oh, we really got to come out. Neck and neck is a much better place to be because every state, including North Carolina, Arizona, Georgia, Minnesota, Michigan, Pennsylvania, Wisconsin, are all in play. And it's a question who turns out. But Andrea, how are we at this place? How is it that we look at Donald Trump and we see him for who he is, and other people are like, well, he's entertaining, he's fun, that, or whatever reason, or some of them like the authoritarian. Some of them, there's all different subsets of MAGA
Right.
or people supporting him. So I want to be fair. I mean, there's MAGA, the hardcore, but there's others like, I think I'm going to vote for him. And you're like, you read articles, why he's entertaining. Like, okay, you're probably not going to vote, which makes me happy because
Right.
no one comes out like, I'm going to stop watching TV to, for the entertainer. Nah,
Yeah.
but how are we here? How are we this close?
It's truly terrifying, Dean. And the two possibilities, or maybe a combination of both, are the case. Is one, yeah, people really do think that voting for him is a good idea. And like you said, there's like the true MAGA heads who will follow him into any amount of insanity that you'll ever see. And then, I'm reading a lot about people who are just like, well, I know that he's not great and I don't respect his life. All the stuff that kind of the Democrats are often saying is like, well, if you think he's a family man or he's this or he's that, like, he's not any of those things.
Right.
But they know that he's going to appoint more conservative people in other positions. And so they're not voting for him. They know that he's kind of nuts, but they're voting for the broader Republican conservative push. So there is that reality. And that could be the case that really more Americans than I care to think want a very, very conservative path for this country. The other possibility that I'm really hoping is that we're missing something big in the polls. And I have worked with polls. I think about polls a lot, and I want polls to be accurate. So part of me doesn't want this to be the case, but for the future of our country, I hope we're missing younger voters. I hope we're maybe overreaching and overcounting Trump voters because of how we've had to, how much polls missed the mark in the past. Like I'm hoping, I know it's close no matter what, but I'm hoping the reality is something where those swing states are more towards the Harris campaign than they're looking like. But I'm not used to saying optimistic things, so even saying that out loud just made me feel weird.
It did make me uncomfortable myself.
Yeah, I'm sorry I said it. Yeah.
Tom, where do you come down on the hope strategy?
Well, the most frustrating thing about this to me is, and it affects me every election cycle, but this one's the most frustrating. I'm so sick of hearing from undecided voters.
Yeah.
I just we have to kind of placate these morons, especially I don't know what anyone has not seen at this point that they're still waiting to make a decision. It's kind of like, I feel like it's kind of the equivalent of like someone's like, hey, what do you want to have for dinner tonight? Like lasagna, or do you want to get beaten to death with a hammer? Like those seem to be the choices.
What kind of hammer?
Does the hammer come with anything?
Exactly. What's the side with the hammer?
It comes with another hammer. It comes with an MC Hammer album. But the whole he's entertaining. He's not that entertaining. I don't like
political.
I don't
young
think,
men.
And the other thing is the entertaining thing. We have entertainment in the world. You know what I mean? Like there is that's a thing that exists. Like you can go to a movie and do why does he need to be entertained? Why are people getting it from their politics now? And I don't know if you saw the thing last night, just really quick, that dinner, the Al Smith dinner.
Sure. We were talking about that later. Go right ahead.
He was horrible. And the whole thing is everyone's like, he's so funny and he's so mean to everyone. It's like, it was supposed to be a roast and he was terrible. He was incoherent. He was lethargic. He was just staring down at his notes. And it's like, you can't even thrive at the thing you're supposed to be good at, which is being mean to people. He had 3 jokes that completely ate shit. And he commented on how bad they were. And then he started blaming the writers, which is just the lowest form, right, for me.
Right.
That's the most horrible thing he's ever done. But I don't know. The whole entertaining thing, I've never understood. I never thought he was. I just always I guess I just hate bullies, and I guess some people the last thing I'll say is it's so much easier to be a Trump supporter because it's so much easier to just be ignorant and not do any research and not do any work and just be I don't know anything, but he's going to do everything, so I don't have to do anything. But because it's hard to do work and accomplish things.
Right.
Kamala's hey, we got to get busy, and that doesn't sound fun to people. So
no, and by the way, there are some Trump supporters who know every single thing he's about, and they're so excited about it. And some, and we'll talk about them later, some of the wealthy ones have a whole different agenda for this country. The oligarchy that they envision is really on the horizon right now. It really is. So Titus, I mean, what is your sense of why this is such a neck and neck race when we see such a huge contrast?
I think we're crazed. If you look back at the last couple of elections, and I kind of go back because of the podcast, I go back and look at it. And you remember that the Republicans were supposed to take 44 seats.
Right.
Remember that? And they got 5. So the polls for the last 3 elections have been so far off. And I think it's okay to be optimistic about it. I also think there's a lot of women that when the pollsters call on the landline or the kerosene powered communication device because their husband's in the room and they're like, yeah, I'm going to vote for Trump. I think when people get in that voting booth, even my uncle, who's a military guy, he has got this both sides sides thing, and both sides is that the right is saying, if it's both sides, it's code for I can't vote for this moron anymore. I mean, I'm not worried about it. We're gonna be fine. As I think it's going to be the biggest rout in American history. I think what's going to happen after that happens, it's going to be so big that he's going to claim that the vote was fake. There's no way it could have been that many people. But I think the day after is going to be worrisome. Day after election, but. I think it's going to be a rout. It's going to be a rout. You can't. People always go, yeah, she laughs all the time. You know who doesn't laugh? Sociopaths. And Donald Trump. He never laughs. And when he goes on stage in the Al Smith dinner, I was like, how can you not have an ounce of a sense of humor? Like the worst people I know can tell a joke. Greg Gutfeld, who's never been funny, at least smirks like it. Like being funny. So I think we're going to be fine. I think we have to keep working. But I think my sister works for the Harris campaign in North Carolina.
Oh,
and there's something on the ground in North Carolina that's rocking pretty hard.
Last time a Democratic presidential candidate won, that was 2008 with Obama, and the polls show. The latest poll is neck and neck. You have a poll where she's up by 1, he's up by 1. North Carolina should not have really been in play, which says a lot that it's in play.
Yeah.
And it 100% is in play. Like, it is in play. And so let's talk about the Al Smith dinner for a little bit here, because it was last night. Jim Gaffigan, who I think some of us know, I know Jim for years, he emceed it. He mocked Harris a little bit, and he mocked Trump a little bit, and people got upset with him, but that he's just doing his job. But Donald Trump's idea of jokes was he used a dinner that was put together by the Catholic Archdiocese to raise money for Catholic charities to spread bigotry about Barack Obama. He kept calling him Hussein. He remember, like Rush Limbaugh would say, Hussein. And then he said about Bill de Blasio, worst mayor ever. I'm surprised de Blasio was he was terrible. I don't give a shit if this is comedy or not. He was a terrible mayor. So who says that a comedy thing? I don't like. There wasn't. Now,
that was a good line,
right? You could say that line. That's actually in a funny way, right? You can do that in a funny way. He was not. He was angry. And I don't know how de Blasio upset him years ago. I have no clue what's going on. Adams has been mayor for the last few years, but so for whatever reason. So, Andrea, I mean, the meanness of him comes out. There were a few jokes I saw where they got laughs, and then he just read it correctly, like someone else wrote it. But anything where you were going to add to the humor or make something funny, he was bad, and he did lash out at the people, which, that's what he does. So
look, Dean, I'm the least successful comedian on this show, to the point where most of you are like, you do comedy? Wow, I had no idea.
Wow.
So, but even I know that some of the worst moves you can do on stage are to say, well, it wasn't funny, but it's true. And you're like, okay. Or you can lash out at the audience for not laughing or appreciating what you're saying. The only thing he missed from kind of the New York comedy open mic go-to is like, thanks for coming to my TED Talk when you say something that bombs. And he can use that next time if he wants to. I'm happy to let him have that. No, it's just terrible. I mean, at this point, the man has had so much stage time that he should be able to land some of these things. So everything else about him aside, right. I think it was Tom, you said, he's blaming the writers. Like he's insulting the comedians. And this is I'm
surprised he didn't mock the room. Like, look at this, where these drapes come from. Every comic when they're not doing well. Like, who made this sign? Today, though, he went on Fox News this morning and said some of the Fox News hosts helped him write it. I can't believe that's Gutfeld, to Titus's point, because Gutfeld is painfully unfunny. Right. He's not tall enough to be funny. That's the problem with him.
But he's got the wasn't I just funny smirk. Unfunny.
See, that kind of smirk. And I wonder who was the ones that wrote for him a joke. And if those are people that bombed, because Jesse Waters, there's a comic genius. That guy.
Yeah.
What a
Trump did
dumb guy.
Trump did so badly last night that apparently he's going to be hosting the Golden Globes this year. So.
Very nice. It's remarkable how badly. Look, he's not some people say he's not a comic. It's the cruelty and meanness oozes out, and he's reading cards, and he was complaining that he had to read cards and it couldn't be on the teleprompter and all that. You would have sucked it on the teleprompter either. It doesn't matter, buddy. Your jokes.
Well, the one thing you said, there's one line he said where he's like, the Barack Hussein Obama,
right?
And then he said, someone laughed. He goes, I guess that guy got it. And I was like, got what? That you said his fucking name? Like. he was acting like that was a joke.
Like he's only said it 1 billion times. And then he said, you remember Rush Limbaugh? He would say Barack Hussein Obama, which it just reminded me of WNBC on the movie of Private Parts with Howard Stern. I'm like, you are awful. He was a piece of work. We miss him. That's what Trump said yesterday.
We shouldn't, we should be so surprised, because I think when people go, where can we find some good comedy? And I think the word Trump pops up every single time for the last 9 years. You remember when he did that funny bit about Mexicans being rapists? God, he just kills. He could have brought that back. His hilarity. Remember the jokes about injecting disinfectant? I remember.
No, the best one was when he stick that mob on the vice president.
That was funny.
That one was actually that one I liked.
He tried to close with that.
That was kind of the improv everywhere vibe of his comedy.
But his best acting ever was the January 6th speech when he said the word peaceful. He actually said peaceful. He said, peaceful. Go get him. You got to stop. Like anyone in Al Qaeda or ISIS from now on, just put the word peaceful. And when you're saying stuff and you can't be prosecuted for everything else you tell people to do.
He's like you guys all have guns? Yeah. All right. Okay. Take your guns there peacefully.
Yeah. Right. I want you to patriotically and stab people patriotically with the American flag. Let's get there. He just knows how. He is a prop guy too. He's a prop guy. He's just
a day of love.
Comedy wise.
He said yesterday, January 6th was a day of love. And Sergeant Ganill,
did he? Oh, I blocked that out.
And Sergeant Ganill, who's one of the sergeants, I've had him on my show for his book, tweeted out about images of himself being beaten up because he was horribly beaten up, because this is the day of love. This is what Trump supporters were doing. It doesn't end. They're trying to rewrite January 6th to this bizarre, it's not even a lost cause myth. Like it's something else.
They're calling it peaceful transition of power now. They're calling it that. Because they're like, well, 2 weeks later. Charlemagne the God interviewed Vice President Harris, and one thing that he said resonated with me so much, because I've said it on my show for 3 years, that DOJ waited too long to prosecute Donald Trump. They should have charged him immediately. Anything, one thing, as soon as they could, when the Garland got in March, or appointed special prosecutor right then, special counsel right then, to say what this guy did was so atrocious. And Democrats should have all been like, this guy attempted a coup and incited attack, and he's got to be charged. And he would have been then branded that. Instead, they let him rewrite it, and they let him say, you charge a guy 2.5 years later. How much of a threat could you be to our democracy if it's so important you're going to wait 2.5 years to charge him? And I understand the wheels of justice move slow. I'm a lawyer. That's bullshit. A guy attempted a coup. You charge him immediately. You set a message to everyone. We're not going to allow it. Then you do superseding indictments to charge him with more crimes as time goes on, as you gather more evidence. We're in a big part of where we are. The Republican Party, number one, to Merrick Garland's failure, I think.
Merrick Garland is the droopy dog of this whole situation. Like, we are going to get him eventually. The DOJ will get to it. We have a place, but this happened in the 30s too. We had the same thing where we had all these senators who were involved. If you read prequel Rachel Maddow's book, this happened before, and they have this thing where they just don't want to split the country and start a civil war. So we'll just let it go for now. And I think what that ends up doing is digging a much bigger hole. We're screwed. We're kind of screwed right now. Again, I worry about the day after. It's going to be a rout, but I worry about the day after.
I mean, I've never been married, but I'm going to wax on this, which is what you're describing, Titus, does kind of sound like it's like, oh, this is a marriage with like some problems. And instead of dealing with them, we're like, let's have kids and let's make it more complicated. And then wonder why it's such a messy, horrible, explosive, divorce if we actually get rid of this fucking man.
Yeah, it ends up being a Dateline special at the end. We stayed together and sat in a restaurant and didn't talk to each other for 14 years. And then one day her body just disappeared. That's what it feels like is going to happen.
I feel like that. Yeah, that's true. Except the bodies that disappear is going to be us, basically.
Our bodies.
Or the enemy within.
One day they just 50% of the country just disappeared. No, it's just like everyone underestimated this guy at every turn, and that's what's been so frustrating to watch, because I guess after January 6th it was like, I mean, I'm involved, and I was like, oh, this is it, that's it, it's over, there's no way again. And I don't know if you've probably experienced this, but like every day I just feel like I'm like in some crazy universe where I'm watching, and it's like like today he danced to YMCA for 2 hours and he looked lost, and he's up in the polls, and I'm just like, why? Because of that? Because he swayed to a song? I think she's gonna win, but it's terrifying that we're like 2 points away from Hitler.
Right. And that you're quoting JD Vance, which is nice if you to quote JD Vance, because
That's
JD
right.
Vance
Away from
called
Hitler.
America.
Good title.
Okay, so let's ask the question, and I'll go to you, Andrea, because it's obvious why.
Uh-oh.
Although you're not going to like this because you don't want to talk about gender issues, I know that.
Oh,
But
my internet's out. Oh, Dean, I'm gonna have to
sorry,
go. I can't hear
how
you.
how much the fact that she's a woman is baked into this? And whenever you're making history, like if Obama and McCain were neck and neck, you wonder what would have happened. Would there were aggressive forces? Not that McCain was a Trump at all, not at all, but still, the forces that were concerned about a black president have then emerged when it was neck and neck. Here, it's beneath the surface. I mean, Barack Obama addressed it a week ago at an event saying about men, especially if he's talking about young black men, that you think it's strong or something, or it's not, it's the right thing to vote for a woman. It shows your strength to vote for a woman, that kind of thing, addressing that. So where does that, we don't know the answer because no one will be honest with us. But
Right.
where do you think it plays in?
I mean, I think you're right to bring it up, and I'll be speaking on behalf of all women everywhere. That it's, I think going into Hillary's campaign in 2016, I think that at least a lot of people in my circle thought that specifically because she's a woman, she would do great, because wouldn't it be wonderful to have a woman president in this country, and wouldn't that mean so much for little girls everywhere, and blah 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 blah. And what I didn't take into account, of course, was anyone who took Trump seriously, but also the fact that Clinton comes with this kind of baggage in history, and kind of the more moderate conservative women who might have voted Democrat, given it was against Trump, would let their sexism, but also let their hatred of the Clintons and like that whole baggage. So it's like, okay, here's a clean slate in a way, where it's like, here's a woman who doesn't have all that baggage, but there's the baggage of the Biden administration, but there's also the intersectionality where we just don't know. And I think the Obama administration and the Obama campaign showed this, is like, Americans can be so much more racist and sexist than I ever think they can be, even now, having seen how racist and sexist they can be. So what I don't know is, I'm hoping that a lot of women, particularly with abortion on the ballot in so many ways that it is, a lot of women are going to come out and really vote for the Harris because of her gender alone. But then we're up against the racism, and I don't know. I don't know where that's going to play with like suburban white women or white women anywhere, who might have that. And then what you're saying, Dean, you're absolutely right, that there is a matter of sexism among black men or men anywhere where they might not vote. So I keep again being torn between this, like, I could be very hopeful and that Harris's gender and sex could really, really be helpful in this campaign. But every time I'm hopeful, it backfires. So probably racism and sexism are a huge barrier. And maybe if Joe Biden had had a running mate who was a white man, she'd be ahead in the polls by 10 points. Like, or he'd
If
be,
he would, if Andy Bashir was his running mate, and now you had like a 45-year-old white guy from Kentucky,
right? You could just cancel your radio show because
Trump.
They'd be up 80%. Yeah.
Maybe if Trump was her running mate, then she'd be up in the polls.
Yeah.
Right. If she
just
had
cancel everything out.
Orange monster. Tom, I mean, where do you think? Look, to me, though, Andrea, it's not. Will be some people vote for her just because she's a woman, yes, and some against her. But I think the women issue that's motivating people is that reproductive freedom, and we know the GOP is coming for abortion and IVF on their terms, whatever they think is appropriate IVF, not the way it is now. Or you're killing a fetus, so you can't do this part, you can do this part. We know they want to control women in every way. They don't view women. I saw an older woman yesterday who said, and I agree with this, that if they could take our right to vote away, they would. I mean, this is a movement that is very beyond misogynistic. They don't view women as equals. They want you to be inferior, and your voice shouldn't matter. Tom,
Dean, I think that. Oh, sorry, go ahead, Tom.
Okay, Titus, we'll go out of order. You go.
Sorry, I didn't really know in order.
It's no
here's
order.
the problem: when Hillary was running as a female, right now we're all thinking about she didn't have the baggage of Trump has this baggage of trying to put a bike lock on all the women's vaginas, and when Hillary was running, no one thought of vagina at all. So we are now worried about women. You said it right. And so I think there's a lot of women, it's going to be overwhelming. And the other thing with Trump is like, we have dementia fatigue right now. Mm-hmm. We are so used to him being crazy that we just everyone keeps going, why? Well, how they can watch it? Because we're just used to it. He's been so crazy for so long. It's like when Mickey Rourke shows up, we know something nuts is going to happen, So I'm just saying that we're just so used to it. And that's why people don't care. Trust me, I think we're going to be fine. But the women thing, I don't think has any weight anymore. Now, I know I'm a white man saying that, so I apologize. being married to a very strong woman, I thank God. Men have fucked up things for 1,000 years. I think we're ready for someone as strong as this woman is.
Well, I think like, I don't know why people are just so like, there's a certain sect of the population that is like, no, woman can't be president. It's like, why don't you just try it? Like,
Yeah.
it might work. Like, you know what I mean? Maybe, they might even be better at it. You know what I mean? I think that's a thing that kind of freaks people out. Because in my view, I don't know. I'm kind of like willing to see what happens with it. And especially if you're running against a guy whose policies are, I'm going to lock you up in a cage. It's kind of like, you know what? Like, give her a shot, maybe.
My wife said something funny. She goes, England and Germany beat us to this.
Yeah.
Come on.
It's worse.
Like,
Pakistan, Indonesia, numerous Muslim countries, and I'm Muslim, have beaten us to this. We are way behind the world. We are like on tier 3. By the way, if this comes down to
USA,
if this comes down to young men versus young women being the winner, what percentage? Who do you think votes more? I'll give you the exact numbers in a second, but I think we all know the answer. Because who do you think is, let's put it this way, who is more focused and who is more easy to distract? Guys 18 to 24 or women 18 to 24 that have something? What Harry should do is on election day send out free weed and pizza to young guys across the country.
I'm sorry. What were you asking? I got...
Right, they're not going to go
for a second.
They're going to be like, just so people know, in 2020, among young women voted 11% higher than young men. And every election since 1980, more women have voted than men. In 2020, women accounted for 55% of the electorate to 44% of men. I know it doesn't come out to 100%, but I'm rounding the numbers. The point is, if you see gender gaps where it's equal, Trump is still losing because guys don't come out in those numbers. It's just the reality. When you're counting on 19, I was a 19, 20-year-old guy. Anything comes on. There's a sporting match. The football game is on.
Hooters has free wings.
Whatever. Exactly. That's what Harry should do. Like just Hooters free wings across the country. You have to be a male Republican who likes Trump.
I'm listening.
Right.
Like, you're onto something, especially if Harris doesn't endorse it. Why don't we just start throwing like some frat parties around the swing states and really get this going?
Like election day kegger, show up, guys.
Yeah,
you got to show up before you vote to get in. Like you get in free before you. If you're after your vote, it's nothing.
If you have a sticker, you're not allowed. You can't.
Right? Come on in.
You get free beer as long as you stay. If you leave, it's over. You just have to stay.
I think this is how we do it. It's a free event if you haven't voted. So you got to come in and you never leave. It's like in the Tarantino movie where they go into the George Clooney in the Mexican bar.
Oh, right.
Selma Hayek.
Dust Till Dawn.
Dust Till Dawn. That's it. Like they go in and no one leaves. That's it. But their own choosing. There's no vampires unless we add that because they love vampires, young guys. There could be vampire people dress up like vampires. All right, let's take a break because I think we just solved the election there. I feel much better now. We're going to pool our money, GoFundMe. Free beer if you haven't voted between 18 and 24 in a battleground state. Let's take a break. We'll come back with our friends Andrea, Tom, and Titus right after this. Welcome back. It's continuing to be what just happened with our friends Andrea Jones-Rooy, Tom McCaffrey, and Titus. So you guys, someone touched on it earlier, but we have to, since we're comedy people, that Donald Trump just stopped a town hall, just stopped it. They're asking questions. He stopped. Now some context, so it doesn't seem, I'm not trying to make this weirder than it is because it doesn't need to be. 2 people had fainted, right? So Donald Trump says to the crowd, who else wants to faint? Because that's what you do when 2 people fainted. It's a serious situation. And then says, who needs questions? He goes, I'll read the quote. He goes, let's not do any more questions. Let's just listen to the music. Who the hell wants to hear questions, right? Okay, that could be a nice thing if it was like for 5 minutes. But if you were a normal person, you're like, hey, you know what? I'm going to leave the stage. Let the professionals do their thing. We'll leave the music on. We're going to kick this back off in a few minutes. He stood there for 40 minutes swaying. And the worst part was certain corporate media outlets he turns into a dance party. No, he turned into a dementia party. Yeah. This was a guy who was like moving back and forth, doing this every now and then, clapping every now and then.
It kind of reminded me of how he handled COVID.
It's a bad dance party. That's how you.
Well, just people. Hey, look, people are dying. Hey, why don't we just dance for an hour? Like I feel like that's kind of that literally is kind of how he. And I'm like, not really even. I feel like that is how he handles things. Like it's like there's a horrible problem, and it's just like and let's just go like dance and like I'm gonna play YMCA. Well, I just have to say, watching him dance to YMCA is like the most triggering thing to me in the world. Like it makes me so angry. And I'm not even sure, I can't put my finger. I think it's just the smugness of it. Like that, like, cause he's so bad at dancing, like, but he's not aware of it. You know what I mean? And I feel like that sums up his energy.
Does he act out the Y? Does he do the thing? Or how
I
does he
feel
do
like
it?
he can't
No,
lift
but
his arms.
the dog killer next to him was doing the
Oh yeah,
all the light.
Christy Nome.
He's
When
hanging
she
in
was
there.
doing the hands, I was just like, oh my God. Like watching him sway next to this woman who's like bragging about murdering dogs. And I'm like, this is a fucking tie.
Yeah.
Look, it's gonna be like Dancing with the Felons on ABC this fall. Like
Yeah.
it's just not
Really bringing everyone out.
nothing may look. Let's be honest. If Joe Biden, as the candidate, had stopped the town hall and stood there for 40 minutes while music played, cable news would have exploded. Like
Yeah.
would be like, boom, what was that? That was CNN. And then they would have had panels with people trying to make sense of it, like mental health professionals going, what are you seeing here? But cable news and everyone's like, well, that was kind of weird, but let's go over here. So Andrew, I mean, what's it gonna go ahead, Titus?
Sorry, what if he just knew he was going to lose the election and was auditioning to be a wedding DJ? Maybe he was just giving it his best shot. And Christy, no, man, the look on her face, you're right. The look on her face was like probably the same look that dog had, right? But he's like, what's going on right now?
That poor dog.
And again, Biden, it would be on TV every second if it was Biden, and we just move on every single time, you know.
It would be in the commercials. It would be in commercials. Trump would be running commercials with Biden. He doesn't even know where he is. Look at him at the dance party swaying back and forth. I mean, Harris, they have a ton of money. They might run it in commercials.
And I think what bothers you the most about the YMCA song is it's about having gay sex in a gym, and I think that's why it bothers me. Like, do you not know what this song is about, bro?
The arrogant ignorance of it.
Yeah, exactly.
Maybe they do it in the Navy. You should do all the YMCA.
I think it'd be hilarious when he gets to jail when he walks in, they're just playing YMCA.
That would be perfect. Like tonight, and guess who's dancing? Donald. Get up there and dance.
Like, let us explain to you the meaning behind this song.
Yeah, let's show you what the song.
Show really don't tell. Yeah,
Andrea. I mean, what do you make of Donald Trump? In 2 weeks out of the campaign, just stood on stage he had nothing else to do. 40 minutes of awkwardly dancing, where I'm sure in the audience there was a point where they loved him, they became uncomfortable. They're like, don't look at him. Don't. This I saw Raiders of the Lost Ark. I know how this is gonna end. Don't look up at there because his face is gonna melt. Something is gonna happen.
No, it's Dean, it's insane to me how relevant all my terrible comedy experience is in the last days of this Trump campaign, right? Because this is like I perform in back of bars, just horrible places. No one wants to be there. And often it happens that, it happened the other night. I was performing at a place in Greenwich Village, and, an audience member in the back threw up because they don't come into our show unless they've been drinking all night. And so it was very similar to the Trump situation. We had to deal with a health issue, move people out. But guess what? You make sure everyone's okay. And then you say, look, if you need to leave, you're not feeling well, of course, alert someone, will help you out. And then you just continue the show as best you can while being thoughtful and maybe not doing throwing up jokes for the rest of the night, right? You don't say, we're going to make everyone stay. The drink minimum still applies, and we're going to just blast whatever shit is on my iPhone, and you're going to watch me sway back and forth while I have a dog murderer next to me. Like, basic shitty comedy shows in New York City are much better than these Trump rallies from a basic performance perspective. Like, it's like I've literally been there, and I am not
Titus is going to top. Titus wants to top something about someone throwing up.
Let's go.
A Trump rally. It's such a perfect description that a Trump rally is like a mandatory second show Friday that you just have to stay till the end, no matter how long it goes. And he's just lost his mind. I would just say that it's a good second show Friday.
Throw up. I never had anyone throw up during a set. I was doing years ago. I was at the Cellar, and someone got drunk and threw a glass but not at me. They were so drunk. It was in my direction, but they thought I was the comic before who they hated. Like, it wasn't like I was doing great. They just thought I was the same person that had just taunted them. Because I had just walked on stage. I had said nothing. And they're like, you suck. I'm like, I didn't say anything yet. Give me that. I'm trying to, Tom, have you ever had anything worse than someone throwing up? Anyone ever die or anything horrible? Can you top?
No, I've had a lot of where I'm dying on the inside. That's pretty much almost every time I perform. No, I gotta say, if someone throws up in my show, I'm like wrapping up my set. I'm like, you know what? I think I'm
I got the
taking the
light.
hits.
Yeah.
Yeah, like it's just like give me the light or throw up, and I'm out of here. I don't know if I've never had anyone faint at a show, and I'm trying to wonder if I've had something. The worst thing, and it's just something you kind of get used to as a comedian. It's just you kind of go, I've been doing it for a while. You're just kind of like, yeah, someone's probably going to yell something at me.
Right.
And I've found doing the longer you do comedy, the more you expect it, the better you're able to handle it.
Someone's going to yell at you. I mean, look at that's it.
By something. I just feel like now I feel like there's a thing in our society. I guess there's COVID. Like I feel like people don't know how to be an audience at things anymore. Like I go to movies now and people just talk at movies. Like that's like a new thing. Like, and I think it's because people don't really. And in comedy, I think I just kind of expect it. So it's a roundabout way of saying that. Yeah, if someone started fainting at a show, I wouldn't put on YMCA and sway for 40 minutes. I would just kind of be like, we're gonna wrap this up.
Sorry to interject, but last night at the Brea Improv, we had a woman have a seizure, and 4 paramedics came to get her. And my opening act, instead of staying out there while this got handled, introduced me in the middle of it. So I had to do 14 minutes. Basically on first responders, and I pulled it off. It was
nice.
Oh my God!
They literally rolled her out on a gurney, and we applauded. It was the weirdest. It was a weird that happened.
And then after the show, were you like, man, I fucking killed tonight?
Oh man,
you have a tape of that? I'd watch that.
You know what I did think? I thought, okay, I'm funny. If I could have made that, make them laugh while someone was literally, they had like an IV stuck in her, and I still made the audience laugh. It was all about me, and I think that's
you did great. Oh, you that's excellent. I'm glad it went well for you. How did the person? Have you followed up at all? No.
Are they alive?
Don't care. Okay. I got her out of there. And they were like, no, she's all right. I did check on her after the show.
Oh, you did? Wow, that's a nice guy. I would have wondered. Like, I wonder. Yeah, if it was like the show I produce, like the Arab Comedy Festival going on now. If it's at the festival I'm producing or something, I would be like,
get an invite.
The festival, you're not Arab. It's right now. It's going on in New York.
Arab only.
Tonight, 2 more shows. Tomorrow, 2 more shows. Last night was our first show at Joe's Pub in the Public Theater. It's not at Gotham anymore because, and I've said this public before, the owner was worried about protest and security after all our years of doing it. And I told the owner, protest security. We are the protest security people. Like, we're the ones that protest. We're the
safest place to be is at Arab American Comedy
Why are
Festival.
you worried about us? There's no place safer than a bunch of Arabs here doing their comedy thing. But I think there was someone in the world over there that had a business concern about Arabs doing comedy right now, where the world is.
That is a big problem that facing our country right now is Arabs doing comedy.
Yeah.
That's it. Well, we're at Joe's Pub.
Speaking of the enemy within,
it's going great.
Trump's gonna fix that.
Yeah.
Well,
enjoy your last.
Did they say they were worried you might bomb? Is that what they said? Did they say
no,
that?
they didn't. They were actually, it was very nice conversation, but we had various conversations. And the word, and speaking of Trump, remember in 2016, he demonized Muslims and he doesn't anymore. Why? Because Saudi Arabia gave Jared Kushner $2 billion and gave him millions of dollars. The guy's even transactional in his bigotry. I mean, that's the truth about what we're living with. It's unreal. And I want to squeeze in to make sure we have time was the coming oligarchy. You have Elon Musk out there doing events, spending $100 million, doing events himself where you have to vote before you can go. It's the opposite because he knows young people. So he's trying to get young guys. Oh, you had to vote. You vote. Okay, you can come to my event for free. And then Miriam Adelson giving $100 million and she wants the West Bank annexed by Trump, not by Trump, by Netanyahu, and wants Trump to green light it. You have other ones. It's billionaire after billionaire, and some are supporting Democrats, but the list is much more on the Republican side. We are heading to an oligarchy, and I wonder if our fellow Americans are concerned. But so we're there. What do you think, Titus? We're there?
Yeah, I mean, listen, man. Citizens United was literally the pancreatic cancer of our entire judicial system. I mean, it's the worst thing that's ever happened to this country, and it will end our country. That when I say that's why I compare it to pancreatic cancer because it's one of those ones that's really hard to survive, unless that law gets changed, and we can't have one guy. And it's such an Orwellian name. If we can't have, if one fucking guy can give that much money. And they can do it repeatedly. There's no citizenry at all. We're not running things anymore. We're not even part of it. So,
it's legal. It's legal to give 95 million. It's completely legal to bribe someone. In the old days, it wasn't. Now you can do it. That's the beauty of the Republican Supreme Court. They made it legal, and then they still tell us our vote matters as much as donations. Stop lying.
That's why it has to be overwhelming. That's why it has to be fucking overwhelming. It has to be so bad where it feels like it was fake.
Which is so frustrating. I agree with you. And it's so frustrating because it's like, oh, you need to win the World Cup, but you have to win by 3 goals. You can't just win by 1 anymore.
3 goals, 500 goals.
Yeah.
And they're still going to be like, no.
And the other team and the other guys get to throw extra balls on whenever they want. They just get to put extra balls.
Exactly. I feel like this whole thing is like there's a game and one side has made up their own rules, has shown up to a football game with their own ball and made up a rule where they're like, well, if I throw it to him, then that's 500 points. You're like, no, we agreed to rules. And they're like, no, that's not how it works anymore. So, it's I don't know how you guys, but I mean, every day I wake up and I just feel like I'm like in some alternate crazy universe, and I feel like I'm the only one seeing it.
We feel like we're the people who lived in the Gilded Age who saw it, and it wasn't as much as in their face, but the Rockefeller and Mellon, everything, controlling things, and you have a lot. I mean, I live in New York, Vanderbilt, and they had so much power politically here that it caused a backlash to a progressive movement where things change. So I hope we can build to that where there's people who just had enough and go like, this is all bullshit. You're kidding me. You can give $100 million legally to someone. I'm supposed to pretend like my vote matters. It means nothing compared to that person. They get the meetings, they get in the cabinet, they get whatever they want. The oligarchy is them setting the policy, and they will. So, all right, before we run out of time, I want to everyone give everyone a chance to plug what they're working on. Andrea, my friend, where can people find you, and what are you working on?
I am working on a show about the election, actually. It's a live show about the political and data science behind things related to everything we're talking about. I've got 2 shows left. One is about how to fight back against disinformation, and another one is just a election eve roundup of trying to keep ourselves sane. And you can go to electionshow.vote for tickets. And if you're in person in New York City, it's a lot of fun. I talk about some cool research and bring on some experts. You can also live stream it. And you can follow everything else I'm doing at Jones-Rooy, JONESROOY, on Instagram.
Thank you, Dr. Jones-Rooy.
You're welcome.
Tom, what about you, my friend?
I have a podcast called LE2B, Last Exit to Brooklyn. I hosted with another comedian, Eric Bronstein.
Oh, my buddy.
And any of you are free to come on anytime you want.
I'm available.
Push you. Okay, cool. So I'll see you tomorrow. And I have a book out, Born Funny. It's got kind of about my time coming up in the alternative comedy scene in the aughts, the thousands, or whatever they're called. And I have a movie on that's on Hulu and Apple TV, Adventures in Comedy. It's a mockumentary that I made, I don't know, 6 years ago. So check that out.
That's great. All right, Tom, thank you, my friend. And Titus, what about you, my friend? I know you're always out there.
I'm working on my 11th special. It's called Doomed to Repeat. That's the name of the new special. I found out that my family's been here since 1628. And the Tituses have been here 400 years, and we own nothing. We don't own any land. So I'm touring with that. Next week. I'll be in Northern California, Sunnyvale, Sacramento, and then Fresno, the amazing Fresno. Still working, and then my podcast, the Armageddon Update. Go to that, and just my own movie, Special Unit, is still on Amazon, still killing it. So, and thanks for having me on. And by the way, I want to say about the Gilded Age. Whenever income gets this despair, we've got so many people that are worth hundreds of billions and so many people that are dirt poor. Things always work out. We've seen through history.
Yep, we will see. Well, all 3 of you, thank you so much. You were all great.